What if your blood turned into acid? When you think of blood, you imagine a slightly bluish red liquid that pumps life into your body. But what if that life essence turned against you? What if one day you looked at your blood and saw it was green or yellow? Welcome to our channel. And today we're going to find out what would happen if your blood turned into acid. If this were to occur, there's a good chance that it would be a sudden and painful event. Our blood is slightly alkaline with a pH between 7.35 and 7.45. It only takes a small change in pH for our bodies to start breaking down. If your blood became more acidic, say a pH of 7, you would feel some immediate effects. First off, there's a general feeling of malaise. You might even have a fever. This is because our organs are sensitive to pH changes, and when they get out of whack, they start freaking out and working less efficiently. In more extreme cases, the body will try to compensate by slowing down breathing, which can lead to fatigue. The brain can also send signals to the kidneys to excrete more hydrogen ions, but those will just make your pee more acidic. As your blood becomes more acidic, the body's trying to regain balance, but all these mechanisms take time. So, while you're waiting for your body to sort itself out, you might notice your muscles start to hurt since lactic acid has built up from anaerobic respiration. Lactic acid is normally broken down by the liver, but if your blood is too acidic, that organ can't handle it. At around a pH of 6, things start getting really bad. Now you'd be experiencing something known as an acid-base crisis. At this point, your body's compensation mechanisms have kicked into overdrive. Your blood starts to flow more sluggishly, and you may even have some internal bleeding. The lungs start working overtime to exhale carbon dioxide, which is acidic. But as your body gets rid of CO2, you might hyperventilate, making the situation worse. The confusion and lethargy might turn into full-blown unconsciousness. As the blood becomes more acidic, its ability to carry oxygen decreases. This means that vital organs like the heart and brain don't get enough of the gas they need to function. In other words, they start suffocating. In such a state, the body is unlikely to recover. And if you were to survive, you'd experience some permanent damage. But why would your blood turn to acid in the first place? Well, there are several ways it could happen. Let's look at one involving lactic acid. We mentioned earlier how lactic acid builds up when your blood is too acidic. But did you know you have a condition called lactic acidosis? This occurs when there's a buildup of lactic acid in the blood. This usually happens when you're going through intense physical activity and your muscles aren't getting enough oxygen. But lactic acidosis can also be caused by certain medical conditions like heart disease or diabetes. Even medications can cause this side effect. To make matters worse, as the lactic acid builds up, your blood becomes more acidic. This creates a vicious cycle. As the acidity increases, lactic acid builds up faster. You may be wondering why not just drink some acid to counteract this. Well, because the very thing that would help you, like an antacid, can also do the opposite. Medications like Alka-Seltzer contain substances like sodium bicarbonate, which make the blood more alkaline. But they're also made of acids like aspirin. These drugs work in different parts of the body, so they have opposing effects. If you drank an Alka-Seltzer, some of the sodium bicarbonate would end up in the blood, making it more alkaline. But the acid from the drug would travel to the kidneys and they'd excrete more hydrogen ions, making the urine more acidic. This may sound helpful, but it's actually counterproductive since the blood becomes more acidic as the kidneys excrete more hydrogen ions. Now let's move on to another way your blood could turn into acid. How about methanol poisoning? Methanol is wood alcohol, which can be found in products like windshield wiper fluid. It shouldn't be consumed, yet every year thousands of people accidentally ingest it. When this happens, the methanol goes to the liver where it's converted to formaldehyde and then to formic acid. Formic acid is what makes the blood more acidic. Methanol poisoning causes a condition called metabolic acidosis. This is similar to lactic acidosis, except the blood becomes more acidic due to ingesting methanol. Luckily, this type of acidosis is rare and easily treated if caught early. If left untreated, methanol poisoning can cause permanent damage to the nervous system, heart, and even go blind. The antidote for methanol poisoning is ethanol. That's right, drinking alcohol helps cure alcohol poisoning, but why does ethanol help? Both methanol and ethanol are alcohols, but ethanol is the type you can buy at the liquor store. They compete for a certain enzyme in the liver. If methanol binds to the enzyme, it'll turn into formaldehyde and then formic acid, which makes the blood acidic. However, if ethanol is present, it will bind to the enzyme instead. This prevents the creation of formaldehyde and formic acid, stopping the blood from becoming more acidic. You've probably heard of someone having their blood boiled, but what if it was acidified instead? Imagine being put into a giant beaker and sulfuric acid being slowly added until your blood turns into vinegar. Jokes aside, this is what happened to Kim Jong-nam, the half-brother of North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un. He was assassinated in 2017 with VX, a nerve agent. Nerve agents interfere with the transmission of nerve cells, and when they enter the body, they stay there for a long time. This means that the blood becomes more acidic over time. To make matters worse, VX is a colorless and odorless liquid, meaning he couldn't see or smell it coming. Once it entered his body, the nerve agent went to his brain and blocked a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine allows muscle cells to contract and relax. This is important for everyday functions like walking, talking, and even blinking. By blocking the neurotransmitter, VX prevented nerve impulses from reaching the muscles. Eventually, this led to respiratory failure and cardiac arrest. In other words, his breathing and heart stopped working. And finally, let's look at how you could be exposed to carbon monoxide. When you breathe, you take in oxygen and carbon dioxide. The latter is expelled as waste. Normally, this is no problem. But what if there was a buildup of carbon monoxide in the air? Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas that comes from the incomplete burning of fuels like wood or coal. If there's a leak in a furnace or someone leaves their car running in an enclosed space, carbon monoxide can build up. When a person breathes in carbon monoxide, it binds to hemoglobin in the blood. Hemoglobin is responsible for transporting oxygen throughout the body. If it bonds with carbon monoxide instead, it'll prevent oxygen from getting where it needs to go. This means that cells start suffocating. In the presence of carbon monoxide, the blood turns a bright red color instead of the normal bluish red. Although the victim may seem fine at first, after a few hours they'll start to feel the effects. These include headaches, weakness, nausea, and confusion. The sad thing is that by the time the person realizes what's going on, it's already too late. The carbon monoxide has bound to most of the hemoglobin. The victim's heart may stop beating in a matter of minutes, leaving them in a state of apparent death. One thing that could save them is pure oxygen. This would displace some of the carbon monoxide, allowing oxygen to bind to hemoglobin. If given quickly enough, this treatment can save the person. Otherwise, they may suffer brain damage due to lack of oxygen. As we can see, there are many reasons why your blood could turn into acid, and each one is more horrifying than the last. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, be sure to check out the next one. With that said, thanks for watching and we'll catch you next time.